Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have just gotten some massive updates pertaining to the ongoing investigation into the 2020 election fraud scandal. Really, it was less of an election fraud scandal and more of a Democrat-led coup against the American people, against this republic. And I'll tell you what, as things currently seem, we are all going to end up having our justice very soon. We also have some pretty curious updates today about the Minnesota fraud investigation. Folks, President Trump is not letting this one go. And that means accountability insofar as Minnesota fraud goes as well very soon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I'd like to show you here. Kash Patel made an appearance. FBI Director Kash Patel made an appearance late last night on Fox News talking about what went on at Fulton County, Georgia. They raided this election office. Hear it from FBI Director Kash Patel himself. He adds some insight here.
Patel, I want to start with the news, and the news is out of Fulton County, Georgia. I know this is an ongoing investigation, but the FBI on Wednesday did obtain a search warrant to look at this Fulton County election hub to access physical ballots, electronic ballot images, and voter rolls. Is there anything you can share at this moment?
Hey, Kaylee, it's great to be with you. Look, like any other investigation, the FBI follows the facts and the law, and President Trump and the Attorney General have given us clear mandate to reduce crime in this country and investigate anything that rises to the level of probable cause. And what we did, the FBI, with our partners at the Department of Justice, the AG, led out on an extensive effort to conduct interviews and an investigation, which led us to a probable cause to be delivered to a judge who found probable cause for us to execute that search warrant, which you saw and the nation saw yesterday. And what we did was what we do in any other investigation. We went in there, we followed the rules of the search warrant. The FBI and the DOJ went in and collected numerous pieces of evidence that the judge authorized us to collect.
Folks, this is something that the Democrats do not want you to know. This is something that you're not going to hear on left-wing mainstream media. This is something the far left does not want to talk about. This raid that the FBI conducted 2 days ago, Fulton County, Georgia election office here, the FBI had a warrant from a judge. In order to get a warrant, in order to pull off this raid, to execute this raid, the FBI had to have probable cause. They had to have evidence of some wrongdoing having been committed here. This is what the Democrats don't want you to know. The FBI, the Trump administration here, folks, they put together evidence that the 2020 election was stolen, or at least what happened in Georgia was fraudulent or stolen. They put that evidence together. They put this evidence in front of a judge. The judge looked it up, read through the entire file, and said, "Oh my good Lord. Yeah, here's your warrant. Okay, here is your warrant." Warrants don't just materialize out of thin air. The judge looked at the evidence and said, "Oh my good Lord. Here's the warrant."
And what we're going to do next is go through the voluminous amounts of information collected and continue our investigation. At this point, there's not much more I can say publicly because we have to go through a lot more material, but it was predicated upon a finding of probable cause by a judge in Georgia.
That's right.
Well, we'll continue to follow it. I want to move to the fraud that we have seen in Minnesota.
We're going to talk about Minnesota here in a second, folks, but first, there's something I want to show you. This is a big deal. This cannot be understated, ladies and gentlemen. Who attended this FBI raid in Fulton County, Georgia? Well, it was none other than Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. This is highly abnormal. Why would the DNI, why would Tulsi Gabbard attend this FBI raid at an election office? Why would that happen? Well, this is a great write-up here. You just know she deliberately, Tulsi Gabbard, let photographers see her there. It's not an accident that photographers got a look at Tulsi Gabbard and snatched a couple photos. Tulsi Gabbard wanted the photographers to know, because the press, the media is over there. You know, she's posing in front of the ballot boxes that are right behind her. What's that in the background? Bunch of ballot boxes that then subsequently got loaded into the truck, the FBI truck, and taken away. Tulsi Gabbard wants certain people out there to know that she now has the crude physical evidence in her possession. Tulsi Gabbard almost staged a little bit of a photo op. She wanted to be seen there. And so I ask you all a question. Why would the Director of National Intelligence be at this office? Well, listen, The reason why is if there was a national security threat. The only reason the DNI would be there at this raid, the FBI can handle it. She's there because there was a national security threat involved in this raid in this office. Well, what would constitute a national security threat here? Foreign election interference. That's what, foreign election interference. Is it a coincidence that, let me do the math, 27 days ago, Maduro was apprehended down in Venezuela? You think that has something to do with this? You think Maduro might be singing like a canary right now, handing over information? Because Maduro, we know down in Venezuela, Maduro and Hugo Chavez, his Venezuelan predecessor, Chavez, they together, the two of them, starting in 2003, developed a proprietary election rigging software built on the back of the Smartmatic electronic voting software. We know that they did that. Trump got Maduro alive. He could have blown this guy up. He didn't. Trump could have dropped a bomb on this guy's head. He didn't. He brought him back alive. He sent in Delta Force to bring this guy back alive. There's a reason for that. And now we're seeing this. Do you think something that Maduro gave to Trump evidence was then put in front of this judge to get this warrant? Might that be involved here? That the FBI then used to raid this election facility down in Fulton County, Georgia, and that's why DNI Tulsi Gabbard's down there? I would bet so. Curious video. Take a listen to this one here, folks.
They got there. Remember those pictures of Tulsi standing outside?
Oh, yeah.
I would bet long odds she was calling the president and saying something like, Mr. President, I've put my eyes on these famous 148. That alone, that set of facts I've just told you alone, completely overthrows the Georgia election. Before we even get to there were 70,000 ballots with no images. And I mean, there's images, but no paper. And there's another 17,000 of other ballots with no paper, but just the images. And there's foreign connectivity, and there's this, that, and all this happy horse shit. And all these different places you lose. I mean, it's just a mountain. But the thing that you could see in 5 minutes is, or in 2 minutes, is just open up that one stack and look. And if those 148,000 are in fact uncreased mail-in ballots, as we've said, or is with perfectly filled in circles, you really have your whole answer right there.
Wow.
So my guess is that has something to do with why Tulsi was on site, because she could personally go and look at that and then call the president. They got there.
That's a great question. Nobody's even asked this question. Tulsi Gabbard walks in there, opens up a box or two. She's confronted with the hard evidence. She's on site, picks up the phone. Who's she talking to? President Trump. You were right. Trump, you know what you've been talking about? These fraudulent mail-in ballots, all of them are identical, perfectly filled in. There's no way a human did this. They're fake. They're not even creased. They're not folded. They're perfect. They're like printed out perfectly. Trump, we got the boxes. Trump, you have been right about this for 5 years. For 5 years, you were right. And now we have the evidence. And now we have the proof. Yep. I would guess that that is what's going on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Fulton County, Georgia is not the only place that we have fraud. We have fraud in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Did you know that? Have you heard the news about the fraud in Minneapolis under Tim Walz's leadership? Well, Tim Walz issued a statement about this. He went on a liberal left-wing podcast just the other day, 2 days ago, and he issued a little bit of a statement about this fraud. You guys are going to get a kick out of this. Listen up.
This fraud thing happens in every state. We had it here. I take responsibility for it. No one in state government had anything to do with it, but people stole from us. You got to stop that. We're working hand in hand with the U.S. Attorney's Office. That's gone now. I don't even know who over there is working on fraud. And we got folks, you come in here, that U.S. Attorney sat right here, and I said, there's two people that want to fix this more than anybody in this state, me and you. What do you need from me?
Is that right? First off, he tries to deflect. He says, well, listen, fraud like this happens in every state. We're not unique. We're not special here in Minnesota. Fraud just like this happens in every state at this caliber. First off, bullcrap. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure if I buy that. Then he says, hey, nobody wants to solve this fraud more than me. Is that right? Then why have you done nothing about it? In fact, about at the 15 or 16 second mark, he said, it's done. It's done. He said, it's done. As if he has already solved all of the fraud. In another interview yesterday, he said, he said that we arrested everybody. We already arrested people. We've already arrested people. And it's true, maybe 2 or 3 dozen scammers have been arrested. But I think there's a lot more than that. I think there's a lot more than that. Kash Patel chimed in last night about this fraud here in Minnesota.
Well, thankfully, every state does not have this problem. I don't have another statistic to give you where we arrested 75 individuals in one summer for hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud related to a program that's supposed to feed malnourished children in underprivileged families. So I don't know what he's talking about. That's pushing it under the rug. And also, a fraud of this size, there should be state and local authorities alerting the FBI early on and participating in our investigation. We went up there and did it with the federal authorities and the DOJ. And we've continued to ask those in Minnesota and around the country of any information on this to let us know, because this investigation is not over. The size of the fraud continues to be exposed, and there will be more arrests coming.
There will be more arrests coming. And by the way, as we know, there is a federal DOJ, Department of Justice, federal investigation into Waltz and Minneapolis Mayor Fry and Attorney General, Minnesota State Attorney General Keith Ellison, conspiracy charges. Did they know about this? First off, did they know about the fraud? Second off, did they conspire together to undermine and impede federal law enforcement operations investigating the fraud and then trying to detain and arrest and deport illegal aliens? Things not looking good for these Minnesota state far-left politicians. Now, we heard from Republican Senator John Kennedy. He gave his opinion here about Waltz.
Let me just say a couple of things quickly, Sean. Number one, Governor Tim Walz. Whatever he says, believe the opposite. I'm sorry, the man learned to lie before he learned to talk. He's just a.
I can't help it. You crack me up.
Well, he's just a less masculine version of Hillary Clinton.
Oh man! Oh my gosh!
Number two.
Did you go drinking before tonight? Did you have dinner before? Keep going.
No,
keep going.
I don't even drink. Let me just.
Waltz is a liar. If his lips are moving, you know he's lying, and he's a less masculine version of Hillary Clinton. Possible, plausible, likely. President Trump himself issued a statement earlier this morning about all of this theft and fraud in Minnesota. I want to read this to you, folks. Trump this morning, he said, "The theft and fraud in Minnesota is far greater than the $19 billion originally projected. The Biden administration knew that this fraud was happening and did absolutely nothing about it. Scammer Ilhan Omar and her absolutely terrible friends from East Africa should all be in jail right now, or far worse, send them back to where they came from. Governor Waltz is either the most corrupt government official in history or the most incompetent." My money's on both. My money's on both. And the reason why is because he is obviously highly incompetent and highly corrupt. He made no attempt to even conceal the fraud. It almost seems like he knew about it and he didn't even try to hide it. Maybe he thought he'd never get caught. And you know what? By the way, he was the vice presidential candidate alongside Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. If Kamala Harris and Tim Waltz had won that election, he would have gotten away with it. He would have gotten away with it. Do you think the Harris-Waltz administration would have investigated Tim Waltz's fraud in Minnesota State? Of course not. In fact, they probably would have made it worse. The fraud would have exacerbated. It would have become even worse. So he almost got away with it. He would have gotten away with it too if not for Donald Trump. That's the honest to God answer. Tim Waltz, even a very low IQ person, of which there are many, should have known what was going on in Minnesota. I think he did know what was going on. I think he knew about it. I think he covered it up. I think he turned a blind eye to it. In fact, I would suspect that he was actually a direct beneficiary of it. Time will tell. The investigation is ongoing. In fact, speaking about bringing about justice, speaking about ongoing investigations, Tim Waltz and Attorney General Keith Ellison have officially been called to testify. They've been subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee on March 4th, which is just a little bit over 1 month from now. And this will be live broadcast. We're probably going to watch this one together live. I'm going to wake up early for it if I have to. This is going to be insane. And by the way, this is not a request. This is a demand. They have to come and talk. And if they don't come and talk in front of the House Oversight Committee and answer all of their questions under oath, under congressional oath, you better not lie, Waltz, Ellison, better not lie under oath. That's a big problem too. If they ignore this congressional subpoena here, demanding them to come and talk in front of Congress, then they will be held in contempt of Congress, which carries a 1-year maximum federal prison sentence. So, hey, if I were them, I would comply. We need to get to the bottom of this if we actually want to make America great again and put America first.